Hello, Algebra 1 class. Hope you had a good Thanksgiving. We're going to get right going here with lesson 52, more on addition of rational expressions with unequal denominators and overall average. Okay, just as you were in the past, you would add fractions together like 1/3 plus 2/5. Notice that this is an expression because it doesn't have an equal sign. It's called rational because we're talking about fractions. They're called rational numbers. In order to add these two fractions together, we need to find a common denominator. You'll notice the common denominator in this one is 15. So to find the common denominator, we see what we need to multiply 3 by to get 15, and that would be 5. And therefore we have to multiply the numerator by 5. Whatever you multiply the denominator by, you also have to multiply the numerator by so that we don't change the value of the fraction. Really what we're doing is multiplying the fraction by 1 because anything over itself is just 1. So in the numerator we would have a 5, and in the denominator we multiply the top and bottom by 3 obviously to get 15, and we would get 6, and so when you did this problem you would get 11/15. Now keep that in mind as we do these rational expressions that are algebraic, which means that there are fractions involved. I mean exponents, variables involved. So here we go. Here's our first one. We're going to add these two expressions together. Starting out, when you find the common denominator of these, your common denominator is just going to be these two multiplied together. So your common denominator is just going to be x times x plus y. It's the smallest denominator, your least common denominator, that both of these will divide into. X cannot divide into x plus y because these are not factors, they're sums. So you can't take x plus y and divide it by x. It's totally illegal to cross your x's out. Very illegal. Very, very illegal. So this is definitely no, 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 no. That would be similar to if you had like 2 plus 3 and you divided it by 2 and you said that you could cross out your 2's. As you can see, one way you get 5 halves and the other way you get 3. So this is definitely a no-no. So when you're going to do these problems, you need to have each of these have to be able to divide into the common denominator. Now, what we have to do is see what times x will give me the common denominator. And you can see what we're going to need for this denominator to look like this denominator is to multiply the bottom by x plus y. I didn't make this big enough. And so it looks just like this denominator, and then we multiply the top by x plus y. And the same thing here. The denominator is x plus y. We need an x to multiply by it, so we'd have to take the top and bottom by an x. Then, these are fairly easy to get started. All you have to do is distribute through the parentheses. So we're going to get ax plus ay plus bx. And that's actually your final answer. That's all you can do. So that is it for that. Let's try another one. This one, your common denominator is going to be x times a plus b. So this one is missing an x, so we take our bottom by an x, and we take the numerator by the x. This term is missing. If you compare this denominator with this denominator, this only has the x, so you need to take the top and bottom by an a plus b. Now you just need to distribute. So we get 4x squared plus ax. So we're just distributing this through, and then we're going to distribute this one through, and we already have our denominator, plus AC plus CB. Order doesn't matter in multiplication. And believe it or not, that's all we can do. We don't have any like terms. There's nothing we can add together, so that's your final answer. Let's do two more. Common denominator for this one, just remember this D does have a denominator of 1. So we draw our line. Our common denominator is both of these, xm. We see what's missing between this denominator and this denominator. It's just an m. Now I'm going to show you something a little tricky. If you have a binomial in your numerator, you need to put parentheses around it. Then we take it times our m. This one is missing an xm and an xm, or it's just an x. Whoops. Just an x and just an x. This one, however, is missing an xm, so you have to take the numerator times an xm. So distribute it through am plus bm plus cx plus dxm. And that is your final answer. Oops, I wrote in red. So there you go. And one more. Find the common denominator. This one's a little trickier. Over 1. Your common denominator, you need everything. You don't need a 1, obviously. So we're going to put the k and the b plus c, and then we just see what's missing. We compare this denominator to this denominator and see what's missing. This one has the b plus c, but it's missing the k. So we have to take the denominator by a k and the numerator by a k. This one is missing everything, so we have to take it times an x, b plus c, and then the numerator times a k, I meant to say k, b plus c. And then this denominator is missing the b plus c part. Remember, I said if there's a binomial, we always put parentheses around it, and you get a b plus c. Now we just distribute through, so we get ak. Now here's the trickiest part. See this negative sign right there? That negative sign has to be distributed through with the xk. So we're going to take the negative xk and distribute it through like that. So we're going to get negative xk, negative, oops, I forgot the b. Negative xkb minus xkc, because we distributed the negative. And you could FOIL these two together, but we're not going to. We'll do that later on. They don't do it in the book either. So we're just going to write, just leave it unfoiled for now. Later you'll definitely be foiling it. And that's your final ugly answer. Not pretty, but they're not hard either. Whoa, that was a bad rectangle around that. Okay, this lesson has two parts. It has this part, which is adding rational expressions with unequal denominators, and then we have one called overall average. So let me pop that one up. Okay, overall average. These are fairly easy problems. See if I can move my screen over just a little bit. Maybe not today. Okay, it's not letting me move it, so. Alright, overall average. The average of averages is seldom the overall average. So if you have the average of one thing and the average of the other thing, to find the averages, you don't add the averages together and divide by 2. On the other hand, overall average is the sum of all the numbers divided by the number of numbers. So, for example, still trying to move my screen over, but it won't move. There we go. For example, the average of the first 90 numbers was 4. The average of the next 10 numbers was 6. What was, with 2 s's, the overall average? So we wouldn't add 4 plus 6 and divide by 2. That's finding the average of averages. That's not the right way to do it. We have to add up all the numbers and divide by the total number of numbers. So the first average, there were 90 numbers. So we're going to add up the 90 numbers and take each of them times 4. So it's going to be 4 times, that would give us the total number, the total sum of all the 90 numbers would be 4 times 90 plus 6 times 10. That gives you the total sum of all the numbers. All divided by the total number of numbers would be 100. So you're basically taking this times this plus this times this. And we're going to get 360 plus 60 divided by 100, and your final answer will be 4.2. So hopefully that you get that. I can give you a better explanation of that in class if you don't get that when we go over your homework. So that is it for lesson 52.